This video will be covering the Katana connection flow. Now, the connection flow basically covers three major areas: importing your data, which includes customers, products, sales orders, and initial stock quantities if you desire. The second one is mapping your stock locations. So if you have one Shopify store, you can map your point of sale locations, let's say if you have retail, to the retail locations for Shopify point of sale users, as well as map the main location for your e-commerce. And then the last step of settings is everything related to the sync. So once you're actually starting to use the integration, you'll be syncing the order fulfillment status of your sales orders, the stock quantities that are at each location using the stock sync, and in addition to that, as well as any edit syncs that would be applied toward sales orders on Shopify or Katana and vice versa. So that's the gist of the connection flow. Now, depending on who you are when it comes to your Katana account, whether you're a new user or an existing user, there's a slightly different approach that you might need to take with respect to connecting your Shopify stores for the first time. And this is included to new users. You are able to import all of those items as basically a new user of Katana to easily get your customers, products, sales orders into your Katana account so you can jump the queue in terms of getting your stuff imported. I highly recommend you check out our importing tutorial series on our YouTube channel, because I'll cover a lot of those topics in detail about some of the structure of how things should look between Shopify and Katana prior to your connection. So one thing that I will say that you should be on the lookout for is being able to have unique SKUs between Shopify and your Katana account. This is very important to match products one-to-one. And in addition to that, it's very important to have a matching name. So if you have a name match as well as an SKU match, SKUs are used for the stock sync. So this is super, super duper important. If you've got that sorted out, you're in a pretty good position to go ahead and start using your Katana and Shopify store together. The other thing is, if you're an existing user, you can also connect your Shopify store. Maybe you're making a switch over to Shopify ecosystem and want to connect your Katana account, and there's some sort of process you're going through as far as getting yourself set up. If you have a situation like that, again, your Katana account is your source of truth. So whatever your SKUs and product names are there should have a direct match with the Shopify store that you're setting up. When you connect to that Shopify store, as long as you have those matchings take place, then you'll have a much more formidable and accurate way of connecting your account so there is no duplication of your customers or your products. So once you get that out of the way, you are in pretty good position to go ahead and start using it. You can also use the import functionality to bring over any new products that aren't presently on your Katana account. So we do a name match condition when bringing data over, and then we ignore the import for anything that is already matching in your Katana side, so it brings in new products, for example. So it's super efficient and very, very helpful. We've programmed a lot of really useful logic into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've created a fresh Katana account. So if you've watched all my tutorials up to this point, this is actually a brand new account. A lot of the stuff that you'll see in here is not the same as before. So as a starting point, let's go ahead and kick this off. I have integrations page here from settings where we're going to connect to Shopify. And when it comes to Shopify, I have to let you know that Shopify supports connecting your e-commerce channel. So anything that you do for selling online, customer buys on your website, that's the e-commerce channel. It also connects to Shopify point of sale. So if you're using Shopify point of sale as a service from Shopify, you can map a second location, or third or fourth or fifth, however many you want, directly to a point of sale location. So the orders flow in from there, deduct stock from that location, as well as update stock at that location anytime you're fulfilling or adding new stock to that location. So it's very handy. Lastly, the Shopify integration for Katana actually supports multiple stores. So once you hook up one store, you can hook up a second one if you so desire. And that usually applies to Shopify Plus merchants, anybody who is doing multiple websites from different countries where you have different prices, different currencies, different regions, different delivery services. All of that stuff can still be integrated with Katana. So let's go ahead and start. Here it will ask you for your store address, and I have a store that I'll be using here, which is called Chris's Roasted Coffee. Copy that store address and go ahead and authorize the process. This will take you into your store and start up with the connection settings, asking you if you want to install the app. So you probably need to make sure that you're an admin user of your Shopify account, or you might have trouble setting up this part. Great. So there's a couple of little helpful steps here that tell you how to do things. So if you aren't watching this video, then you'll be able to get some additional help here whenever working through the prompts of the in-app tutorials. All right, so first things first. When it comes to your Katana account, you're probably operating in some form of a currency. And if you are hooking up to a website where you're selling it, I actually have a case with my Katana test account where my base currency is euros on my Shopify store. I believe it's in euros. And also my present demo is currently in US dollars. So you see I have euros here as my store currency, and it's asking me if I want to change my base currency to euros on my Katana account. So make sure that if you have a situation like this, you need to enable multi-currency functionality on your Katana account, which is from everything from the advanced plan and above. So if you have a differentiation between your Shopify store using one currency and in your Katana account using another currency, you need to be on the advanced plan and upgrade to enable multi-currency. This allows that orders that are processed, let's say in one currency on your website, can be converted to your base currency on your Katana account. Since I'm using a fresh account, I'm actually not going to change anything. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, and then this will allow me to update my sales orders that are coming in with the current currency that I have on my Katana account. Now, the next step here is setting up your inventory locations. So if, for example, you have multiple locations on your Shopify account, you can map them to the different locations on your Katana account. So in my case, I've got two locations on my Katana account, which is my main location and my retail location. Main location I use for e-commerce order fulfillment, and my retail location I do for point of sale fulfillment. So I'll map my Shopify online orders to my main location. And since I'm using point of sales channel, I'll actually map this point of sale location to my retail location. So currently I'm using a coffee seller on my Shopify store. You can see that if you've got, let's say in my case, 3 point of sale locations for that one Shopify store, I can map all of those to one or multiples of my Katana locations. This is primarily for finished goods stock tracking. So here we'll choose next. Now, on the initial import page, this is where you get to choose what information do you want to pull over. Firstly, you can import payment pending orders. Now, payment pending orders is by default what Katana is going to import are any orders that are paid for and unfulfilled. So as you know on Shopify, there's two types of statuses. There's a financial status of an order as well as the shipment or fulfillment status of an order. And by default, what Katana is going to be doing are any orders waiting to be sent out but are already paid for, it will import those. But if you're doing some sort of process, let's say within your Shopify store, where you generate an order on the back end of your Shopify account and you're waiting for a payment to come in manually, for example, you can also have the items that are in payment pending status imported, even if their financial status is not listed as paid. So it'd be unfulfilled and payment pending. If you want to turn that setting on, then it will import those orders that are currently open with the payment pending financial status. There's also one here that says import custom items on open orders as products. So inside of Shopify stores, when you're looking at any of the details related to your sales orders, found here, if you were to create, let's say, a new order here, and in that order, you select a product and hit add, there's an option that is located here called add custom item. And if you add a custom item here and put a name, it just adds a line item to the sales order. But in Katana's settings list, what this means is that while you're connecting, if you import that on a sales order, it'll be added as a new stock item product in your Katana account. If you leave that unchecked, then it won't be added. It'll just be ignored, basically. So something that you can think about when it comes to how you run your Shopify store and how you generate sales orders. I like to leave it on because sometimes putting that custom item, depending on what kind of manufacturing business you are, might make sense in certain use cases. This next one is importing all of your customers. The customer list here on the left, so when you choose the customer block, you can have a list of your customers that will be imported into your Katana account. And in addition to that, Katana will also import your products. So these products that are appearing here are going to flow in the exact same Shopify structure that you have saved them on your Shopify store. So for example, in Shopify, when you are creating products, you'll use a variant structure, which will include a name and then 2 or 3 variants, for example. So in my case, I've got products listed here, and I've got 2 types of products, American Blend Coffee and Brazilian Roasted Coffee Pack. And the American Blend Coffee, in this case, presently has 2 variants. So it will actually come in as one product card with 2 variations in it, which will be based on size. You'll find a default tax rate that's related to those products. So this depends on the basis of your store, for example. If you are selling your products with tax inclusive on your Shopify website, then what Katana will do is it will deduct the 20% and import the products with the correct pricing without tax. If you're selling it tax exclusive, meaning that tax is only applied at checkout, which is common in places like the United States, then you could just save this as a 0% tax rate, since the tax will be applied to the sales order, not necessarily to the product. So in my case, my web store is based in Europe, which sells with a 20% inclusive tax. So I'm going to leave it as is with 20% included. Now the next thing is importing your stock levels. So when you do an import of your stock levels, what Katana will do is it will take the initial stock quantities that are presently available of your products in your Shopify store and import them as fresh new stock inventory on your Katana account. Now, this would be something that you'll never do if you're already a pre-existing user of Katana. So most likely this is best only applied for new users of Katana. If you're a pre-existing user, if this is checked, then it could mess up your stock on your Katana website. You'll have to go and delete the stock adjustment that was made as a result of importing those initial quantities. However, in this case, it's pretty easy and straightforward. You would just tick it off. But since this is a very first time user account, I'll leave it ticked on. Now going into the next step, this is the sync settings. Now, the sync settings are basically what happens once the connection is live and moving forward from that point in history onwards. The way it works is you can sync a variety of things. First one is the order changes from Shopify to Katana. Order changes would include anytime an item is removed or anytime an item is swapped out. those changes flow between the mapped sales order on your Katana account and the ones on your Shopify account. So anytime a change takes place, it can be done in both places. Going to the next one is synchronizing the order fulfillment status between Katana and Shopify. Now, when you click this on, this is what it tells you. Orders that are delivered in Katana automatically fulfill orders in Shopify. Depending on your Shopify settings, may also alert customers via email. This is something that you should not turn on until you're ready to start using the integration. So it might be recommended to come back and turn it on when you know that you're good to go. Why is this important? Well, it's important because let's say you import your sales orders and you start testing everything out in your Katana account. And you mark a sales order as delivered in Katana and you have the sales order fulfillment status synced. It will change the fulfillment status on Shopify, and then Shopify by default actually sends an email to your customer saying that your order's been sent out. Be very careful with this before you turn it on. You need to pay very, very close attention. But once it's enabled, then you're good to go. So that's how that works. Now, another thing I want to point out is that Katana supports partial order fulfillment. So if you've got, let's say, 5 items and you send out 3, then 3 of those items will be marked as partially fulfilled in Shopify. So it's not just a one-for-one. It could be any items and any quantity of items in the sales order that are sent out at that time. So we do map to a partially fulfilled order status in your Shopify account from Katana. Synchronize stock levels from Katana to Shopify. Now this is something that you also want to turn on when you're ready for it. This is the warning you get. Your inventory quantities in Shopify will be overwritten by Katana. Stock levels, whenever quantities for items change in Katana, only enable this if your stock levels are correct in Katana. What this is saying is that if you've been tracking stock in your Shopify account all this time, then what you're going to be doing by turning on the setting is using Katana as the source of truth to overwrite your stock quantities on your Shopify store. So one thing that you want to do before messing with this is making sure that your stock quantities are correct in Katana before updating it on your Shopify account. So if you have 0 quantities of stock on your Katana account and you've got, let's say, 100 on your Shopify account, but you're still using Shopify as your source of truth, then you're going to create 0 stock on your Shopify store, and then your customers will not be able to buy it. So we recommend doing a stock count prior to going live with your integration and turning on this stock sync feature. It doesn't matter for my case because in my case, this is a brand new account and I'm not too worried about it. I'm importing stock for the first time. But if you are already using Katana and you have been tracking stock separately on your Shopify store, be sure that your stock quantities are correct inside of Katana prior to activating the setting. I'll turn it on anyway. Now, we get to the last one down here. This is a very interesting, unique feature of Katana and the Shopify integration. It says, commitments from orders created in Katana reduce the availability of stock in Shopify. This sounds kind of weird, but what does it actually mean? A lot of small manufacturing companies might sell things from stock, which they ship off, but have a make-to-order workflow in their manufacturing side. So what happens in your Shopify store? Well, if you make a sales order in Katana for, let's say, you sell 10 items of one thing on your Shopify store, and you have 10 items in stock and you send them out. But maybe you do B2B sales and you get a large order from a distributor, for example, for 100 units. But you don't have 100 units in stock, but you have stock sync activated. Well, what happens is if you create a sales order for 100 units in your Katana account, it will commit 100 units on your Shopify store, which will give you negative 90 stock values. This is something that we created specifically for customers that are make to order to prevent that from happening. So if a sales order originates from Shopify, meaning that's the source where it's created, it will be pulled into Katana and it will commit from the stock on your Shopify store. But if you're a make-to-order business and you need to generate a sales order inside of your Katana account for stock tracking and material tracking purposes, you can create the sales order directly on the Katana account using the create sales order option. And for 100 units will not generate a commitment against your Shopify stock. So it's just a nice little unique way to have one stock location, but to support any fulfillment from stock as well as any fulfillment from make to order. Because make to order items in higher volumes are not actually in stock, so you don't want commitments for your sales pushed against those for the available stock that's on your Shopify website. So this allows you to basically remove any make to order sales orders from the equation. That's pretty much what that means. And once that is covered, we'll go to the next. And here you can see a summary of everything that you set up. We're going to import all of the open orders that have a status of paid and pending payment. We're going to include custom items as new products whenever they're imported on a sales order. So it creates a new stock item for our Katana account. Importing all customers and importing all products, including stock levels. For sync, we are going to pull in the payment and payment pending. Yes, it's mentioned. Custom items, order fulfillment state between Shopify, stock levels, and commitments from orders created here in Katana do not reduce the availability of stock. Okay, and that's it. So before we confirm, we'll go ahead and do that. And it will give me a nice little overview of everything that has happened after the import is complete. First thing I want to cover is what's happening right now. Remember, this is a fresh account. There's no data in it. But if we go to our sales list here, once the import is completed, we'll see sales orders populate here if I have any that are currently open and pending. Okay, so now it's finished and it says that I have 5 orders that have imported from Shopify. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. We'll refresh the page. Okay, cool. So as you can see, there are 5 orders now here. Now what also has brought over is my initial stock quantities. So whatever my stock quantities were on Shopify should now be visible as well here. So here's the American and Brazilian blend coffees, and here are the stock quantities associated with them. So you can see that they pulled over nice and neat. Also, the American blend coffee, which we've already covered, which is 2 variations, appears on one product card in the 2 variants listed here. And the default sales price is, in our case, the 20% subtracted from the sales price. I think it was set up for, I want to say $10 or 10 euros, more or less. So that's how we get the default sales price imported for those items. And of course, as you go along, you can go ahead and start to create the recipes for these products as you begin building out your Katana account if you're a new user.